Welcome to episode 8 of our 14-episode series on how to teach pool to kids of all ages. Today, we're going to talk about why your aiming stinks. Why are you missing balls? What are the top 5 reasons you are missing balls, and why do you fix it? How do you fix it? In episode 7, we talked about aiming systems. And we said there is no perfect aiming system. We went through the ghost ball, and you could have a ghost ball aiming system that is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. You practice it, everything seems good. But what goes wrong when you get in a match? What goes wrong? You start getting frustrated. All right, guys, slow down. It's easy to get frustrated. It's easy to get yourself all worked up when you miss a shot and you don't understand why. So in this episode, we're looking at the top 5 reasons
why our aiming system is not working. What are the variables that throw us off? First is alignment. The pool stick needs to be pointing where we're looking. It needs to follow our eyes along the shot line. 2, stroke mechanics. Even if we have the perfect alignment, the perfect aiming system, we need to execute our stroke properly. 3, cut induced throw. Every time we have a cut shot, friction will cause the object ball to be thrown off its intended path. 4, English induced throw. Every time we use English on the cue ball, left or right of the vertical axis, the object ball is thrown off its intended path. And 5, deflection. Every time we use English left or right of the vertical axis on the cue ball is thrown off the shot line.
So how do we ever make a shot? Those 5 variables are not even an exhaustive list. Those are my top 5 hits. So let's take a look first at alignment. We want to make sure the pool stick is pointing where we're looking. It's following our eyes. So generally what we can do is you can set up a camera, you can take a look forward. You want to see if your head, your elbow, your hand, your bridge hand, your grip hand, and you can't see your dominant foot, but your dominant foot as well, all on the shot line. So simply that you're looking at the shot line, and that is where the cue stick is pointed. Now, how do we accomplish this? How do we check this? Either for ourselves or for our students, a good first step would be to identify a straight line. Here in this diagram, we've labeled the long string. The long string connects the 2 center diamonds, the 2 middle diamonds on the short rail. The long string also passes through the foot spot and the head spot. Now we have 4 identifiable points on the table for a nice straight line. The foot spot is where you rack the balls. The head spot is where you break from. Then we have the head string. We've identified the head string, the foot string, and the long string. But for our purposes, let's use the long string as a straight line. Here I'm helping my student find their vision center, which we will talk more about in our next episode, which will be dedicated to eye dominance and vision center. But here I used a laser to actually hang a string on a mirror that we have behind this diamond table. The student now places the body behind that long string on the table to line up to see how they would actually aim a shot. I want them to be able to see their vision center and compare it to their head position and their body position once they are down on the shot.
Okay, one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, and I hear it all the time, they say, Roy, my eyes, they're not what they used to be. I'm having trouble aiming. They're just not right. I don't see as well as I used to, or I need new glasses. And for the most part, it's just wrong, right? They see the shot line fine. They find it. Now I'm standing in front of my laser setup with my string on the mirror, and I see that my vision center is right about here, just to the right side of my nose. That's how I see my aiming system. That's how I see the shot line, regardless of whatever aiming system I'm using. And that goes true for everybody. But what happens is there's a problem with alignment. It's not so much your aiming system, it's not seeing the shot line. It's a problem with your alignment, because you aim standing up. That's how you have the visual perspective for your aiming. But what happens between standing up and aiming and getting down to make the shot? So you may have something like this. Now, my head is over here. My pull stick is to the outside of here. I'm looking in one direction. Pull stick is pointing in the other direction. And chaos, it's chaos. And what can you do? You're not going to, you say, geez, I have a perfect aiming system. My ghost ball is beautiful. I've made it. It has my picture on it. Or I use a CTE, center edge system that's perfect. How can you miss? Right, with that center, a fractional ball system, CTE system, light system, I got the perfect aiming system, and I'm still missing. The biggest reason is alignment. We want to make sure that when we get down on the shot, we stand up, we find our vision center, and the vision center, eye dominance and vision center, we will talk about in the next episode 9. So please stay tuned and watch the rest of this series because it all ties in. So the next episode will tell you how to find your vision center, but we get our vision center, and we want to make sure that our head is not here, that we're not looking head turned this way or that way. We want to make sure that our head, our grip hand, our bridge hand, our foot, our cue stick, our arm, our elbow, all on that shot line, so that cue stick goes where we're looking. It follows our eyes. If it does not follow our eyes, doesn't matter what kind of aiming system you have. So the first thing to check is, let's check your alignment. Let's take a look at a striped ball drill and see how that looks. Set up your camera at the end of the table and film yourself and see what you look like standing up and aiming, and what you look like getting down on the shot, and see if we can make those two jive just a little bit. Let's take a look.
We can recall the striped ball drill from episode 4 of this series on stance. It is a great simple drill to check and work on your alignment. Here we have our student Ezra, who I believe was only 8 years old when he was working on this particular drill. And he is setting the striped ball, the stripe up, on the head spot, and he's shooting through the long string. The long string is identifiable by 4 points. It connects the 2 middle diamonds on the short rails through the head spot and the foot spot. So it's an easy way to identify a nice straight line. Set up your camera at the end of the table. Take a look at your alignment here. We see Ezra's elbow, his head, his bridge hand, and his grip hand, all on the same shot line, so the cue stick is following his eyes, and the cue stick is right on that shot line, just driving that cue ball in a straight line. That's what we're looking to do.
What happens when we have a mechanical failure? We can have a perfect stroke, we can have a perfect alignment, pre-shot routine, approach the ball, but something goes wrong. our mechanics fail us and we're not able to shoot in a straight line.
Let's take a look at what some of these mechanical failures might look like. This is a friend of mine, Charlene, who's a very good sport and decided to help us out. Charlene is a pretty typical league player. She'd been with her team to Vegas. Now take a look at where the cue stick is pointed, and you can see that straight line. She's not on it. That's an alignment issue. But take a look at what happens to the front of the pool stick, and we're going to take a look at the hand, the grip, and some of the mechanical issues that causes her not necessarily to be hitting in a straight line. And these are the things that we really need to break down step by step. Let's see where the pool stick is pointed. First of all, she tries to find it, and you'll see that hand, grip hand, moving all around. That's a big part of this issue. So we have the alignment. You see when she steps into the shot, the pool stick is not pointing on the shot line, but also take a look at that grip hand, where it goes. And it moves all around, her elbow drops. These are the very typical things. Now take a look at that wrist and the elbow drop. These are things that are very difficult to self-diagnose. Let's take a look at that hand again. You can look at it, you can try to tape yourself like this and take a look. But you're probably better off having a coach, taking a lesson, having somebody go through this with you. And Charlene was very good. She's much better now. She's been working at it. But let's take a look at that hand, that grip hand.
We've checked our alignment and we've reviewed early episodes of this series, and we've checked all of our mechanics, and we seem to be okay, but we're still missing. The next thing we're going to look at is throw. And we're going to look at throw in terms of energy transfer, not just from the cue tip to the cue ball, but also the cue ball to the object ball. And it is through this energy transfer that we're going to learn a little bit about what actually happens. What's the physics? What actually happens when these things collide? In order to understand the types of energy that we're going to talk about, I think it's important to do a quick review of the tangent line. The word tangent comes from the Latin tangere, and which simply means to touch. Anytime a line touches a circle or an arc at one point, the radius to that line forms 90-degree angles every time. Now what happens when we add collision of two circles? Okay, we have two circles colliding, in our case, pool balls. Anytime two circles collide or touch each other, the radius of each of the circles will contact the line at the same point, both forming 90-degree angles. That is what establishes our tangent line. Okay, what does this have to do with aiming or our effect of using our aiming system? Well, let's take a look, because there are two lines of energy in play every time the balls collide. So the blue line is our contact line of energy. That's going straight. If we're hitting a straight shot, that is the only line that comes into play. However, any time that we have a cut shot, any time that there is a cut shot on we're shooting a cut shot, the tangential line of energy comes into play every single time. This is the definition of cut-induced throw. Every time we have a cut shot, that cue ball grabs bit onto that object ball and throws it off our contact energy line. it has that tangential energy line that throws it to the side. So in this particular diagram, we placed our ghost ball to lock in the contact point on our blue line. That's our contact energy line. When we hit that cue ball, even though we contact the object ball on that right on the blue line, it throws it to the left. If we look at the top left of that diagram, you'll see the green line. The green line will show us a direction off the shot line, off that contact energy line, where the object ball will go. How far the object ball is thrown off the contact energy line will depend on a lot of things. It will depend on speed, spin, the angle to which that cue ball strikes that energy line, the blue line. And how do we know? How do we measure it? Let's take a look at how we might measure uh, for ourselves, how we might measure um, the amount of contact induced throw, and in order to help us make the little adjustments to our aiming system. The first step in measuring the amount of throw that you're getting with your equipment and with your stroke is to set up a straight line. Now let's go back to the long string. Remember, the long string is identifiable by 4 points: the middle diamonds on the short rails, the head spot, and the foot spot. Here I've set up a laser and to verify our straight line, and we're going to place some pre-measured angles and see where it takes us. Let's see what it looks like. Here I've simply taken a rule and I've measured out a distance on our long string, whether it's 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. Measure it out, place two of those little hole reinforcers and create a ghost ball so you lock in the contact point. Then here I've simply taken a ruler and I've measured 0, 15, 30, and 45 degree angles. So I can experiment. I can hit that ball at uh, using my ghost ball now. I can hit that ball at 15, 30, 45 degree angles at different speeds with different spins to get an idea of what kind of throw I'm getting. Where is that object ball going off of my long string that I've identified with my laser, and I have the 4 points. How far off of that is it going? And you will see that a few things will emerge. First of all, the most throw is not at 45 degrees or the steeper angle. The most throw you're going to get is about 30 degrees. If you hit that here, if you hit that directly at 30 degrees into our ghost cue ball, you can get approximately, the rule of thumb is approximately 1 inch of throw for every 12 inches of linear travel. So if you're shooting a shot that is 4 feet away, then the object ball can drift as much as 4 inches if you're hitting it at a slower speed and at about a 30-degree angle. If you hit more speed, it will reduce the throw, it can reduce it by half or more. If you put in, if you put English, if you put spin, if you do other things, anything you do pretty much affects the throw. But it's a good idea for you to experiment and see where it is so you can start making adjustments to your aiming system.
Okay, let's talk about the typical situation you might find in a game. You ever seen somebody rattle a ball in the side pocket? You ever think why they might rattle the ball in the side pocket? I've set this ball at 2 feet from the center of the pocket. So remember, at an inch or more of linear travel, when you make a 30-degree cut shot, what's going to happen? The ball can move to the side because of throw a couple of inches. Well, if you're not exactly on target, you're going to end up getting out of line and rattling that side pocket. So let's take a look at what that might look like. We're going to place our ghost cue ball again. We're going to use our ghost ball aiming device. And a nice slow hit, David. Nice slow hit. I got that aim right for the center of the pocket. So pocket speed. See if you can see it move. Look at that. Dead center, 2 feet away, perfect contact for the center of the pocket. But that moved at least 2 inches and maybe more.
Let's take a look now at English induced throw. Every time we hit the cue ball to the left or to the right of the vertical axis, it puts rotational energy on the cue ball. So now we have two things going on. We still have our contact energy line, but now we have rotational energy. We have the cue ball spinning to the left or to the right because of English. And when that happens, just like when two gears are contacting, the one gear will turn the other gear in the opposite direction. That's what happens with our English induced throw. In on the diagram on the left, you have left English, which will throw the object ball to the right of our shot line, of our contact energy line. And in the right diagram, the picture on the right side, you'll see right English, which throws the object ball to the left. So now, instead of a tangential line of energy, which of course that still applies, by the way, we now have an additional factor of English. We have a rotational energy in play. So every time the cue ball has English on it, it throws the object ball in the opposite direction of the spin. Now we can measure it the same way, right? We can take our long string, our long string. We can take a ruler. We can measure things out. We can place. We can draw a straight line, and we can experiment a little bit to see where that object ball goes. How far will it travel off of our shot line, our contact energy line? But this happens every time we employ English on our cue ball. So now we're not just dealing with directional throw, cut induced throw, but we're also dealing with English induced throw, and they can cancel each other out. If you learn how to use these variables, you can certainly use one to cancel out the other. Uh, let's now take a look at our final variable in this episode, and that is going to be deflection. If we didn't have enough things to worry about, we have to think about deflection, also known, a lot of people refer to it as squirt, uh, but it happens every time we hit left or right of that vertical axis. We're using English. If we hit along the equator or anywhere along that on the side of the vertical axis, not only does the cue ball change the path of the object ball, but the tip hitting the cue ball changes the path of the cue ball. Oh my gosh, so many things to think about. But every time we hit to the left or the right, it changes. First, let's take a look at what hitting straight on the cue ball, right on the vertical axis, and then let's see how things change when we move to the left or right of the vertical axis.
We have a straight in shot. So we're hitting the cue ball along the vertical axis. We're not going to have a lot of bending of the shaft. The cue ball is going to go pretty straight. But what happens when we hit the cue ball on the horizontal axis, the equator of the cue ball, using our English, left or right of the vertical axis? Let's take a look at this shot. Remember, the cue ball is a ball; it's a sphere, and anytime you hit on the side of that sphere, you have only a piece of that tip of the cue. Here we're hitting on the left side, and only the very right side of the tip comes in contact with the cue ball. And the same thing would be applied if we hit right English, would be the left side of the tip that comes in. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? This means that every time we hit the cue ball along the horizontal axis, one side of the vertical angle here by the red line. So we have a line of energy. We have a line of energy that goes forward, right? We have a linear line of energy depicted by the red line, and we also have a uh, kind of a tangential when we talked about, very similar to what we talked about in terms of the tangent line. We have a line of energy that goes to the left because of right English. So we have some movement straight and to the left because of the right English. And similarly, if we went to left English, the cue ball would to the right, and that's
One of the reasons we get so frustrated with ourselves and our aiming system is not working.
Thank you for watching. This brings us to the end of episode 8. All the things that could go wrong with your aiming system, why your aiming system may not be perfect, and why there is no perfect aiming system. Some of you at this point may be asking yourselves, oh my goodness, how can I ever aim straight? How can I ever make this work? How can I ever sink a ball? And Roy, before you told me all of these things, I had everything under control. I played by intuition. I want you to remember that all intuition is your subconscious using your experience and your knowledge to make very quick decisions. If you improve your knowledge and improve your experience, you will foster and grow your intuition. Your intuition will only get better. There are a little bit of growing pains when you start off by breaking all of the things, all of the elements down, all of the variables one by one. You are actually internalizing a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, and you can only improve. Now, don't forget to join us next time when we talk about our next episode, when we talk about your eye dominance and your vision center. Why is that important? And how do we find it? And how do we use that in our stroke, in our goal to make a perfect stroke? Don't forget. Thank you for to subscribe to this channel, to share it, help us to grow the sport, and help us to grow the channel. Thank you.